Chapter 4260 Red Glass. Yun Chujio was already speechless from anger. Men were indeed animals that leaned on the lower half of their bodies to think, and the gigolo was no exception. Even at this time, he still had the mood to take advantage of her. Shameless. Shameless. She was both embarrassed and angry. Previously, the situation was urgent, so she did not think too much and directly put the small silver snake into her arms. Who would have thought that this pervert actually had a nosebleed? He must be thinking of something good. She realized that once the pretty boy turned into a snake, he would become shameless. She glared at the small silver snake on the bed and found that its body was covered with a layer of ice. She wanted to ignore it, but she could not bear to do so. She could only get a simple hot water bag and put it under the quilt. Then she stuffed the small silver snake in. The small silver snake gritted its teeth weakly. Wait for that thing that could be straight or bent. After Yun Chujio changed her clothes, she lifted the blanket and saw that the little silver snake was in better condition. She said, "What do you think about this matter? Who do you think did it?" A certain lord coldly snorted, "It's most likely Lan Luchen's doing. Otherwise, that person wouldn't have said that he wanted to capture you alive and wanted to kill me." Moreover, back then, the Lihen Palace had once searched for Mei Long Glaze in the Yulon Valley. It looks like it's not a coincidence. They really know that Mei Long Glaze can trigger the cold poison in my body. Yun Chujio nodded. If it was the people from the 9 pavilions, they could also explain why they knew about debeiming. It was because the inn where the 9 pavilions stayed was right across from them. Hence, they knew that debeiming had brought her away previously. However, how did they gather so many people so quickly? Could it be that they were all disciples who had come to participate in the sword technique conference? Yun Chujio recalled the incident where a certain man had turned into a snake and asked, "Did you use a secret technique again? Is that why you became like this?" A certain man did not deny it. In that situation, if he had not used a secret technique, it would have been very difficult for the two of them to escape unscathed. Yun Chujio instantly felt that the pretty boy was actually quite bitter. Although he had the spiritual power to fight against the heavens and the earth, there was a cold poison in his body that would flare up from time to time. Not to mention other things, the blue-colored glass was enough to take his life. Is there no way to solve the blue marble? Yun Chujio sighed and asked. It's not that there's no way. Once the cold poison in your body is solved, you naturally won't be afraid of the blue marble, a certain being said faintly. Yun Chujio poked the head of the small silver snake in a bad mood. You're just spouting nonsense. It's like you didn't say anything. Is there any other way? Debeiming hesitated for a moment and said, There is another way. If we can find the fiery red glass for cultivation, the blue succulent glass will no longer trigger the cold poison. However, I have read many books and asked Shui Wuji and Enfeng to investigate. There is no news about the fiery red glass. Perhaps it has gone extinct. Yun Chujio comforted him. Everything in this world is mutually reinforcing and counteracting each other. Since the blue succulent glass has appeared, the fiery red glass must still exist. There will be news eventually. Debeiming acknowledged and then said, I was careless this time. If I knew that they had the sapphire blue glaze, I wouldn't have fallen for it when I was using my spiritual energy shield during the fight. Debeiming was a little annoyed. Originally, he was aggressive and came to settle the score with the little rascal. Now, he had become a little silver snake. Not only did he delay the official business, but he had lost all face and dignity. Chapter 4261. The suicidal Chu Fong. Yun Chujio comforted her a few more times and suddenly remembered what Shui Wuji had said to her. She picked up the silver snake skin and asked with a smile, The head of the black chicken told me that you have to put aside the feelings between men and women. Even if you marry me in the future, you will only treat me as a decoration. Is there such a thing? Debeiming gritted his teeth. He hated Shui Wuji as well. He explained, I do want to put aside the feelings between man and woman for the time being. After all, the most important thing now is to improve my strength. However, I didn't say anything about treating you as a decoration. Don't listen to Wu Jie's nonsense. Yun Chujio frowned when she heard that. There was one good thing about a gigolo. He said what he said and said what he said. He would not lie. So, was Xue Wuji lying to her? She thought back to Xue Wuji's words and actions and gritted her teeth. The last few sentences were probably made up by that random Xue Wuji in order to attract her attention. She was too angry at that time, so she did not see through his little trick. Yun Chujio was about to speak when Chu Fang's voice came from outside the room. "Junior sister Yun, can I go in?" The small silver snake's vertical pupils immediately flashed with a faint light. What was this bent and straight idiot doing here again? Yun Chujio stuffed the small silver snake into the quilt and then opened the door. Chu Fang sized up Yun Chujio. Seeing that she was fine, he heaved a sigh of relief. "Junior sister Yun, are you okay?" "I'm fine. There's not blood on my clothes. It's stained with something else." Yun Chujio originally wanted to send Chu Fang away with a few words, but seeing that he had entered the room by himself, she could only close the door and walk to the table to sit down. Chu Fang lowered his voice and asked, "Junior sister Yun, is your fiancé really gone? You're not lying to me, right?" Yun Chujio nodded. "Yes, he's gone. He has other things to do." Chu Fang suddenly seemed to relax a lot. He raised his voice and said, "I'm not saying this, Junior sister Yun, but your fiancé is too rude. He threw me down from the second floor without even asking for the truth. Look at what he did to me." Yun Chujio looked at the bruised and swollen face of Chu Fang and said guiltily, "Senior brother Chu, I'm sorry. I've implicated you." Chu Fang waved his hand and said, "It's not your fault. The main thing is that your fiancé is too impolite. I see that he treats you coldly. He wouldn't hit you usually, right? If he really hit you, you can't have such a fiancé no matter how high your spiritual power is. As a man, you have to take care of a girl. How can you be so rude?" "You see, I have always been obedient to the little moon." Chu Fang shivered as he spoke. Why did he suddenly feel a little cold? The little silver snake under the blanket was about to explode in anger. "Good, very good. I will remember you." Yun Chujio found it funny in her heart. For the sake of Chu Fang's little life, she began to change the topic. "Senior brother Chu, let's not talk about him for now. Are your injuries okay?" Chu Fang said a little embarrassedly, I'm fine. I didn't react at that time either. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fallen like this. Since you're all right, I'll go back first." "All right, I came to tell you that we'll set off tomorrow at midnight. Don't be late." Yun Chujio nodded and sent Chu Fang out. This guy closed the door and giggled when he remembered what Chu Fang had said earlier. The small silver snake under the blanket glared at her fiercely. He had already killed Chu Fang again and again in his heart. Chapter 4262 Yun Chujio's guest. The next morning, Yun Chujio got up on time and put the small silver snake into her sleeve. This way, she could keep warm and avoid being taken advantage of by this pervert. After everyone got on the flying spirit tool, Yun Chujio felt that Zhuang Hong had been staring at her viciously. This guy sneered in his heart. If he didn't do anything evil, she would keep him for a few days. If he was looking for death, then she didn't mind giving him a ride. Thinking of Zhuang Hong, Yun Chujio thought of the middle-aged man from before. Then she was suddenly shocked, and a bold guess surfaced in her mind. Could it be that the 9 pavilions were behind He Hongchuan, the old man with the triangular eyes, and the middle-aged man behind him at the sword technique conference? Although their words were directed at the 6 great sects, their main target was the nameless sword sect, which included the Flying Flower Island. Therefore, after learning about the Gigolo's news, they were able to gather a group of people so quickly. These people had other uses. However, their people had been dealt with by her one after another, so they changed their plans in an emergency. Then, the question was, what was the purpose of the 9 pavilions doing this? Yun Chujio thought that what they did was nothing more than to defame the reputation of the nameless sword sect, causing its reputation to plummet and then slowly erode it. Yun Chujio wanted to tell Master Ouyang about her guess, but she felt that the evidence was insufficient. Moreover, she couldn't mention what happened last night, so she decided to put it aside for now and wait for the right time to bring it up. However, along the way, He Xinjiu often approached Master Ouyang. Her small mouth was so sweet that it was as if it was dipped in honey. Master Ouyang couldn't stop smiling. Master Ouyang now felt that it was not bad to take in such a disciple, but it was a pity that she was a female disciple. After some time, he would find a reason to take in a new disciple to train her. As for Yun Chujio, she could be his disciple, but she would definitely not be the successor of the sect master. If Hei Xinjiu knew what Master Ouyang was thinking, she would definitely sneer. How could she let others snatch what she liked? Dream on. After everyone returned to the nameless sword sect, Hei Xinjiu ran back to her courtyard. What Hei Xinjiu didn't notice was that a disciple from afar peeked at her. This unlucky person was the disciple who was knocked out by Di Baiming. Before Di Baiming left, he had threatened him. If he dared to leak his information, he would definitely kill him. Hence, this unlucky person didn't dare to tell anyone that Di Baiming had come. Now that he saw that Yun Chujio had returned safely, he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Yun Chujio returned to her own courtyard. After washing up, she released the drifters and the silly cuties as usual before she told Di Baiming her guess. It was inconvenient to talk on a flying spirit tool. Hence, these few days, other than stuffing some food into her sleeves, Yun Chujio basically did not communicate with a certain someone. Di Baiming felt that her guess was right. The 9 pavilions had been dormant for many years, and they had always been ambitious to rule the entire towering sky continent. The nameless sword sect and the other 5 sects were their stumbling blocks, so they must be plotting to get rid of them. I guess this is only the first step for them. There will be other actions in the future. You just need to remind Master Ouyang from the side, said Di Baiming. Yun Chujio nodded and said in puzzlement, let's not talk about the 9 pavilions first. I feel that the Divine Devil Hall is a little strange. Why has there been no movement? They have not been so quiet in other continents. Chapter 4263 won't scare you to death. When Di Baiming heard Yun Chujio's words, he said indifferently, on one hand, your attention was attracted by the 9 pavilions, so you didn't notice the actions of the Divine Devil Hall. On the other hand, they had failed in the previous continents. This time, they naturally learned a lesson and did things more secretly. However, you don't have to worry too much. Sooner or later, you will be exposed. Yun Chujio thought about the taste of Di Baiming's words. Then she widened her eyes and said in disbelief, You don't mean that the 9 pavilions have a relationship with the Divine Devil Hall, right? Di Baiming said non-committally, It's hard to say. I have only found some clues, so I can't make a conclusion yet. Yun Chujio still couldn't believe it. The people of the 9 pavilions have real spiritual power. It doesn't seem like they used medicine to increase their spiritual power. Also, I've never seen them use secret techniques. How could it be related to the Divine Devil Hall? It's possible that I guessed wrong. In any case, it's good that you know. Di Baiming didn't say much. After all, he didn't have any concrete evidence. Yun Chujio's emotions were a little complicated. Although she did not like Lan Luochen, she still could not believe that he had actually joined the Divine Devil Hall. After a moment of silence, Yun Chujio suddenly remembered something. Puzzled, she asked, Didn't Wu Jie's head say that after you broke the seal, you became like an ice sculpture? I see that you still know how to shamelessly take advantage of me. You don't look like an ice sculpture, but more like a pervert. The small silver snake closed its eyes and pretended to be dead, not making a sound. Yun Chujio pouted. TSK, it's not because you turned into a snake that you turned into a pervert, is it? No wonder you have 2 penises. Di Baiming, which eye of yours saw that I have 2 whats? Nonsense. He had an ice spirit root. The stronger his spiritual power was, the colder his temperament was. After turning into a small silver snake, his spiritual power had weakened a lot, so his temperament had changed. However, he didn't want to tell Yun Chujio, in case this little rascal became even more arrogant. Seeing that a certain one had been pretending to be dead, Yun Chujio smiled evilly and wanted to check the body of the small silver snake. The small silver snake was so scared that it directly crawled into the quilt. Hei Xinjiu had a sinister smile on her face. Little rascal, I won't scare you to death. The next morning, after Hei Xinjiu had breakfast, she jumped into the courtyard of Master Ouyang. Master, I've come to pay my respects to you. Master Ouyang nodded his head in gratification. It had to be said that ever since he had taken in this disciple, he felt that he had also become a few years younger. The master and disciple were chatting casually when Zhuang Hong walked in. Zhuang Hong saw that Yun Chujio wanted to strangle her to death, but he couldn't say anything because of Master Ouyang, so he could only pay his respects to Master Ouyang. Master Ouyang's attitude toward Zhuang Hong was much colder than Yun Chujio's. He was very disappointed in Zhuang Hong now, but because of the many years of master-disciple relationship, he didn't dissolve the master-disciple relationship. Master Ouyang's good mood was also gone. He waved his hand, indicating that the two of them could leave. Zhuang Hong and Yun Chujio walked out of Master Ouyang's courtyard one after the other. Zhuang Hong said viciously, "Yun Chujio, don't be complacent. A good-for-nothing like you will be expelled from Master Ouyang sooner or later. Also, don't forget that you and I are not the same batch of disciples. Although we are both successive disciples, you are a generation lower than me." Before Zhuang Hong could say anything, Yun Chujio ran back to Master Ouyang's courtyard. Chapter 4264 Account Book. Zhuang Hong was stunned. Then he remembered that Yun Chujio was full of bad ideas. He hesitated for a moment but still followed her. Before he got close to the living room, he heard Yun Chujio's loud voice. Master, Zhuang Hong has to address you as your brother in the future. He said that you are the big brother and he is the little brother." Zhuang Hong almost sat on the ground. This bitch was simply spouting nonsense. Master Ouyang's face darkened. "What nonsense are you spouting? What a mess." Zhuang Hong also barged in at this time and said angrily, "Yun Chujio, you're spouting nonsense. When have I ever said that?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "Master, Zhuang Hong told me that he and I are not in the same batch of disciples, so we have to address him as martial uncle. Then the problem comes. You are my master and he is my martial uncle. Then aren't you in the same generation as him?" Master Ouyang was stunned. He didn't pay attention to these forms of address in the past, but now it seemed that it was a little inappropriate. However, how should he address her? "Master, how about this? In any case, in the sect, only the elders and the successive disciples have a true master-disciple relationship. Then, it doesn't matter how many generations the successive disciples are, they can all address each other as the same generation." Yun Chujio suggested. Master Ouyang felt that it made sense. Although it was a little rough, at least it wouldn't be messy. Zhuang Hong wanted to object, but he knew that he would be rebuked by Yun Chujio if he said it out loud. Therefore, he didn't say anything, but he had some plans in his mind. After Zhuang Hong left, He Xinjiu said with a smile, "Master, don't you think him quite smart? If you have anything that takes time and effort, you can teach me to do it. I guarantee that I will help you complete it beautifully." Master Ouyang glanced at Yun Chujio and pondered for a moment. He said, "It just so happens that the account of the Spirit Stone Mine has been handed over in the next few days. If you have time, help Master check it and see if they have tampered with it." Hearing that, Yun Chujio curled her lips slightly. This was simply a trivial matter, so she said, "No problem. Master, where is the account book? I promise to find out all the tricks in it." Master Ouyang looked at her with a complicated expression, and then, a pile of account books appeared on the ground. Yun Chujio looked at the small mountain of account books, and her heart was like a dog that was complaining. Old man Ouyang was just messing with her, right? Master Ouyang coughed a few times. "The affairs in the sect are complicated, so the account books have been piling up in my place, and I have never had time to check them. Since you are so smart, take them back and check them slowly." He Xinjiu had already bragged, but she could not slap herself in the face. She had no choice but to put the accounts into her storage ring and return to her own yard. Looking at the mountains of accounts in the yard, she felt that her head was about to explode. As expected, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Old man Ouyang had seen through her thoughts, so he had made such a move to show her off. She had a photographic memory, and she was extremely smart. However, with so many accounts, how long would it take to review them? Just as she was worrying, the drifters thought that these account books were new toys that Yun Chujio had gotten for them. They crowded around and threw the account books around, enjoying themselves. Yun Chujio's head was buzzing. She stomped her feet and shouted, "Put them down! These are not toys for you." The more Hei Shinjio shouted, the more excited the drifters became. They thought it was too fucking fun. Chapter 4265. Troublemaking drifters. Hei Shinjio was so angry that she almost died. However, the drifters were not afraid of her at all. The ledgers were thrown all over the yard. Fortunately, the ledgers were much stronger than the ones in the secular world. Otherwise, they would definitely fall apart if they were thrown around by the drifters. Hei Shinjio roared in anger, "If you dare to be evil again, I won't bring you out in the future. You can put mushrooms in this yard." Hearing Hei Shinjio's words, the drifters threw the books on the ground and went to play on the slide and swing. In fact, these drifters felt that they had played enough. Otherwise, Yun Chujia's threat would not have worked. Hei Shinjio looked at the books on the ground and felt like crying. She did not need to cultivate after reading so many books. However, if she did not do it, Old Man Ouyang would have even more excuses not to give her power in the future. She was really in a dilemma. It was not that Hei Shinjio had not thought of hiring people to help her with the accounting, but these accounts were confidential and it was not convenient for others to handle them. Just as Hei Shinjio was feeling bitter, the little silver snake said, "This venerable self will audit with you. 2 people are faster than 1 person." Yun Chujia's eyes lit up. That's right, she still had a freeloader to feed. There was no need to use it. Therefore, Hei Shinjio got Meng Yanshou and the rest to pick up the accounts books and arrange them neatly. She and Di Baiming started to audit the accounts. However, just as they started to audit the accounts, the drifters came to cause trouble. They threw the neatly arranged accounts books into the yard again. Hei Shinjio was completely enraged this time. This fellow carried a large kitchen knife and chased after the drifters all over the yard. However, the drifters were not afraid of being hacked at all. They even rushed over to let her hack at them, almost causing this fellow to vomit blood in anger. A certain someone looked at Hei Shinjio, who was jumping all over the yard with doting eyes. He felt that such a lively little scoundrel was simply too cute. If Hei Shinjio knew what this person was thinking, she would definitely roast him into a dried snake. Lively my ass. She was about to die from anger. Yun Chujio chased after him for a long time and was panting tiredly. She sat on the chair and panted as she scolded, "A bunch of white-eyed fools. I will tear down the swing and the slide in a while. Let's see if they are still showing off." When those fools heard that Yun Chujio was going to tear down the swing and the slide, they immediately stopped and sneakily returned the account books to the stone table. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. So these white-eyed drifters were afraid of this. However, the most important thing now was to review these account books first. When there was time, she would deal with these white-eyed drifters. When Yun Chujio thought of this, she picked up her account book and began to read it. She did not need to use any abacus. After scanning it with her eyes, the basic results were out. She stole a glance at the small silver snake and realized that he was also flipping the pages very quickly. Clearly, the speed of a certain person's mental calculation was not slower than hers. The corners of the guy's mouth curled. He became competitive and sped up. However, even though the speed of mental calculation was very fast, there were too many books. It would take them at least 7 or 8 days if they didn't eat or drink. Hei Shinjio was a little impatient. She threw the books on the stone table and looked at her group of silly cuties. Then she said, "What's the use of raising you? If you can audit the books, can I go and cultivate?" Buttface, who was running crazily in the yard, said eagerly, "Little fairy, if you don't mind that I'm stupid, I can help you do it. However, I only know how to add and subtract within 10. If you include my toes, I can barely do anything below 20. I won't count any more." Yun Chujio said, "Get lost." Chapter 4266 was finally completed, but Face was not angry even though he was scolded. He said slyly, "Little fairy, although I don't know how to calculate, Curly Hair knows it and so does that kitten. They are all scheming people. How can they not know how to calculate?" Yun Chujio's eyes immediately lit up. She looked at Meng Yanshou and the kitten and asked, "You guys know how to read accounts?" Meng Yanshou and the cat cub hated Buttface, who was a snitch. However, they did not dare to lie. Meng Yanshou said dryly, just a little. The cat cub also said weakly, I only know a little. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes and did not say anything. She just threw a pile of books to the two. The two of them couldn't begin to look at the books bitterly. It would be great if they could play by the side. Who would be willing to look at this stupid thing? Yun Chujio looked at them coldly. Although the nightmare beast and the kitten were slightly slower than her and beiming, they were still much faster than the average person. As expected, they knew how to count. Buttface saw Yun Chujio's cold gaze and was gloating in his heart. The kitten and curly hair had always wanted to compete for the pet. They wouldn't be able to trick the two of them to death. With the help of Meng Yanshou and Cat Cub, the speed was much faster. After 3 days, they had finally finished reviewing the pile of ledgers. Yun Chujio carefully looked at some of the connections in the ledgers. In the end, she wrote a summary of the results and eagerly went to see Master Ouyang. Master Ouyang had thrown a pile of ledgers to Yun Chujio in order to make her quit. Not to mention the position of sect master, he did not even want her to do the daily affairs. It was impossible for a female disciple to do these things. Therefore, when Master Ouyang heard that Yun Chujio had finished reviewing the books, he was shocked. Then he said with a straight face, Little Gio, this is not a joke. If you dare to deceive me, Humph. Hearing that, Yun Chujio smiled and handed a few pages to Master Ouyang. Master, please have a look. Master Ouyang's mouth twitched when he saw the dog-like handwriting on the pages. However, when he saw the contents, his face was full of shock. He followed the words written on the pages and randomly checked a few ledgers. He found that the flaws he pointed out were not wrong at all. Did she really finish reading all those ledgers in 3 days? Was she still human? After a long time, Master Ouyang finally came back to his senses. He said to the calm and composed He Xinjiu, You should go back first. I will look for you if I have any questions. How could He Xinjiu leave just like that? What a joke! She had worked so hard for 3 days and was sent away just like that? In your dreams. Master, I am your last disciple after all, and I can write and calculate. You should at least arrange some errands for me, right? I think it's good enough to inspect the upper, middle, and lower court's big kitchens when I have nothing to do. What do you think? Master Ouyang was so angry that he laughed. He had seen thick-skinned people before, but this was the first time he had seen such thick-skinned people. However, he thought that this little girl was a scoundrel. If she did not agree, she might not cause any trouble. After all, the big kitchen was not involved in anything. It was not a big deal to let her interfere. Therefore he nodded. All right, then I will hand over the 3 quarts big kitchen to you to manage. If anything goes wrong, I will hold you responsible. Yun Chujio immediately thanked her with a smile and left with the sect leader's decree. When this fellow left Master Ouyang's courtyard, the corners of her mouth curled up. There's no rush. Simmer it slowly. Let's take it slow. Sooner or later, she will make old man Ouyang cry and beg her to be the successor of the sect leader. Chapter 4267. The ghost realm. He Xinjiu went to the 3rd courtyard's kitchen and pretended to guide them for an inspection. Then, she shamelessly packed a pile of delicious food and strolled back to the courtyard. The people in the 3rd courtyard's big kitchen dared not to be angry, but they did not dare to say anything. After all, this little girl was now the last disciple of the sect master. One person achieved enlightenment, and the chickens and dogs ascended to heaven. The silly cuties also followed suit, hugging the meat bones and munching happily. When Dog 2 saw the cat cub's lack of interest, it had a thought. This cat cub was the most narrow-minded. Usually it was very protective of its food, but today, it was acting so strangely. There must be something wrong. It eagerly went to Yun Chujio's side and said, Little fairy, I report. The cat cub is up to no good. If it didn't have something on its mind, why would it be so quiet? The kitten almost fell to the ground. It hurriedly said, Little fairy, don't listen to its nonsense. I'm just too tired from reading the books a few days ago. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. Among all these silly cuties, the one she was most worried about was this fake kitten. Although it placed its hopes on the soul transformation technique, It was hard to guarantee that it would play some tricks. When the cat cub saw Yun Chujia's cold gaze, it could not help but tremble. It stammered, "I did hide something, but it's useless to say it out loud." Before Yun Chujio could say anything, Dog 2 glared at it and said, "Whether it's useful or not, that's up to the little fairy. What's the use of saying that? Quickly tell me the truth or I'll kill you." The kitten hated Buttface to death. However, Yun Chujio was protecting it, and although it was useless now, it was still an ancient fierce beast. It didn't have absolute confidence in killing it, so even if it hated it to the bone, it couldn't do anything. It could only say with an embarrassed expression, "Since the little fairy wants to know, I'll just say it. I know where the blazing red glass is." "What?" Yun Chujio suddenly stood up and held the kitten's ear and asked, "Do you know where the blazing red glaze tile is? Where is it?" The little silver snake, who had been resting with its eyes closed, opened its eyes and stared at the kitten with a burning gaze. The kitten was so frightened that it trembled and said, "I've also heard about it, so I don't know if it's true or not. It's rumored that the royal family of the Ghost Clan has the blazing red glaze tile. But the Ghost Clan is very fierce, and their cultivation methods are different from ours. So, it's useless even if I tell them or not." When Buttface heard about the Ghost Clan, he immediately regretted that he had said too much. He did not want to go to that kind of place again. He had scared his baby to death. Yun Chujio was at a loss. Ghost Clan? What's a Ghost Clan? Don't people have to enter reincarnation to become ghosts? Why is there a Ghost Clan? D. Biming explained, "The Ghost Clan is just a title, not a real Ghost Clan. The place where they live is called the Ghost Territory. After the Ghost Clan left the Ghost Territory, they entered the immortal soul state. The people in the world mistook them for ghosts, so they gave them the name of the Ghost Clan. Correspondingly, other races could only enter the Ghost Territory in the immortal soul state, and the immortal soul of humans was the most fragile. Therefore, the Ghost Territory was never worried about being invaded by other races. Most importantly, the entrance to the Ghost Domain has always been hidden. Almost no one knows where it is, so the Ghost race rarely interacts with other races." Although Yun Chujio still had a lot of doubts, she finally knew most of it. She looked at Kitten and asked, "Do you know the entrance to the Ghost Domain?" A hint of schadenfreude flashed in Kitten's eyes. "I don't know, but Buttface knows that it disappeared for a few years. It is said that it was trapped in the Ghost Domain." Chapter 4268. "You are the only woman that I have my eyes on," Buttface shouted in exasperation. "Nonsense! I'm not trapped there, I'm just loitering. I'm an ancient beast, how can a mere Ghost Clan trap me?" The cat cub curled his lips in disdain and did not say a word. "Little fellow, are you trying to trick me? If I can't get better, don't even think about it. We are all in the same boat." Yun Chujio looked at Dog 2's fierce appearance and curled the corners of her mouth. No wonder Dog 2 was afraid of ghosts. It was not the ghosts but the Ghost Clan that it was afraid of. However, looking at how afraid it was likely that the memories of the Ghost Realm were not very good. "Dog 2, do you know the entrance to the Ghost Realm?" Yun Chujio asked faintly. Buttface shook his head like a rattledrum. I don't know. I was muddle-headed back then and accidentally stumbled into the Ghost Domain. I didn't know where the entrance was. Besides, little fairy, the Ghost Domain isn't a place for humans to go. Spiritual energy will be suppressed there, and it's still in the primordial spirit state. In addition, those ghosts are all very cruel and abnormal. Don't be stupid." Yun Chujio knew that Buttface must know the entrance to the Ghost Realm when she saw the guilty look on his face. However, should she make such a trip? D. Biming said in a deep voice, "Little Gio, I'll make a trip to the Ghost Realm after my body recovers. You don't have to get involved in this matter anymore. You just need to cultivate well in the Nameless Sword sect." Before Yun Chujio could say anything, Buttface shouted, "No, Your Excellency, you can't go." This time, both D. Biming and Yun Chujio were stunned. They knew something from Buttface's words. Yun Chujio said coldly, "Buttface, it seems that you are hiding a lot of things from me. Tell me, what is going on?" but Face wanted to slap himself twice. He blinked his eyes and said, "I don't know the specifics. I only know a little. If I'm wrong, you can't blame me." Yun Chujio snorted coldly. This Butt-Face was becoming more and more calculative. His words were becoming more and more watertight. Seeing that Yun Chujio ignored him, Butt-Face could only continue. The Ghost Clan and the Yen Clan had a good relationship for a period of time. Wasn't Your Excellency the Lord of the Yen Clan in the past? That's why they had an acquaintance. It was said that Princess Mei-Yen of the Ghost Clan admired the Lord very much. She once said that she wouldn't marry anyone other than the Lord. However, after the Lord disappeared mysteriously, she didn't know whether Princess Mei-Yen had married or not. Little fairy, think about it. If this Lord goes to the ghost realm, wouldn't he be like a meat bun hitting a dog and never coming back? Di Biming heard Butt-Face's metaphor and glared at him. However, this glance had a different meaning in Yun Chujio's eyes. She sneered and said, "What? Are you afraid that I will know that you have an old lover?" Di Biming rebuked coldly, "What nonsense are you talking about? Although I have lost a lot of my memories, I can swear to the heavens that from the beginning to the end, you are the only woman that I have taken a fancy to. Other women are no different from cats and dogs in my eyes." When Hei Shinjio heard Di Biming's words, she felt a little better. However, when she thought about it, this pretty boy had too many secrets. There might be a few coquettish bitches jumping out one day. She had to be on high alert. In case the wife-slave that she had painstakingly groomed was taken advantage of by others. Then, the question was, should she go to the ghost realm? Chapter 4269 Scheming Dog. While Yun Chujio was pondering, Di Biming said coldly, "Little Jio, you should get rid of this idea as soon as possible. I will go there myself after I recover." Yun Chujio pouted and said, "What if you are set up by that whatever succubus? You are so stupid. I'm afraid that you will fall for it." Di Biming, Butt-Face couldn't wait for Yun Chujio not to go to the ghost realm, so he said, "Little fairy, how can you not trust Your Excellency? Your Excellency loves you more than gold, how can you like that succubus? Although that succubus is the #1 beauty of the Ghost Clan, in my opinion, she can't even compare to a strand of your hair. Your Excellency will never like her." Yun Chujio's sense of danger grew stronger when she heard that Succubus was the #1 beauty of the Ghost Clan. That old woman had lived for tens of thousands of years. She might have many tricks up her sleeves. No matter what, she had to go with her. Otherwise, what would happen if the pretty boy's virginity was taken away? Di Biming knew what Yun Chujio was thinking when he saw her expression. He glared at Butt-Face, who was not helping. He knew that Yun Chujio was fearless. No matter what, he had to calm her down first. Hence, he said, "How about this? After I recover, we will go together." Yun Chujio felt that this was a good idea, so she nodded and agreed. Butt-Face immediately drooped his head. He did not want to return to that nightmare-like place. However, he was now the little fairy's beast. If the little fairy wanted to go, he could only follow her. The baby really wanted to cry. Just as Butt-Face was feeling miserable, Yun Chujio asked, "Right, Butt-Face, where is the entrance to the ghost realm?" Butt-Face blinked his dog eyes. Although he did not want to say it, he still said, "It's far away and right in front of us. It's under the sword pool. Otherwise, where do you think these drifters came from?" The Eye of Sword Intent was also the entrance, but it was probably destroyed by those drifters. This time, not only Yun Chujio, but even Di Biming was surprised. Could these drifters have something to do with the Ghost Clan? Didn't they say that these were the killing aura? No wonder they could only stay in the puppet disc once they left the Eye of Sword Intent or the Nameless Sword Sect. So this was the reason. Then they are the Ghost Clan? Yun Chujio asked in disbelief. Butt-Face shook his head. They shouldn't be the Ghost Clan. Who knows what the hell they are? They look quite similar to the killing aura. The drifters heard their conversation and immediately fluttered around, not knowing why they were so smug. Yun Chujio looked deeply at Butt-Face. She had thought that he was a good-for-nothing, but it turned out that he was a scheming dog who was loyal to the outside but a traitor. There must be a lot of things that he was hiding from her. When Buttface saw Yun Chujio looking at him with an unfriendly gaze, he immediately shivered. "Little fairy, it's not that I didn't want to report it. It's just that the ghost domain is too dangerous. I'm doing this for your own good." If Yun Chujio believed him, there would be a ghost. However, she could also see that this scheming dog was full of schemes. It was useless to force it. She could only take her time to deal with it. However, the entrance was much easier in the sword pool. This way, she was not afraid that Di Biming would leave her alone. That night, everything was quiet. Yun Chujio and Di Biming also entered their dreams. Because there was a murderous aura guarding the courtyard, Yun Chujio did not release stupid Meng to watch the night. The murderous aura sneaked into the bedroom. The silver snake opened its vertical pupils. However, it quickly felt dizzy and did not know anything. Chapter 4270. Heading to the ghost region, a dark light flashed past the black bead in Yun Chujio's dantian, but it disappeared in an instant and did not make any movements. Guai Chao and the Great Void Mirror seemed to have noticed the unusual movements, but the two of them did not make any movements either. The murderous aura wrapped around Yun Chujio and the small silver snake and soon disappeared from the bedroom. Their movements were mysterious, and they skillfully avoided the patrolling disciples and headed towards the sword pool. Soon, they arrived at the sword pool. What was surprising was that with their wrapping, the sword lights could not hurt Yun Chujio and the small silver snake at all. Soon, they disappeared into the sword pool. Hei Xinjiu was teasing a certain lord in her dream when she suddenly had a very strange feeling. It was as if her entire person was in an ethereal state. She opened her eyes in a quiver. However, she realized that she was in a red mist. To be exact, she was surrounded by a group of drifters. What was going on? She subconsciously looked for the small silver snake. She was shocked when she saw a phantom floating beside her. She muttered to herself with a dumbfounded expression, "Am I still in a dream? Otherwise, how did this pervert become like this?" A certain being, Little Gio, our primordial spirits have already left our bodies. We are both in the primordial spirit state now. Di Biming's tone carried a hint of helplessness. He woke up earlier than Yun Chujio, but he could only watch as these drifters carried him forward. However, he saw that the place where their bodies were located seemed to be a secret room, and there were even some drifters surrounding it. It should be very safe. Yun Chujio was a little confused. What did they mean by Yuan Shen leaving the body? Why did Yuan Shen leave the body when he was sleeping? This fellow looked at his hand and realized that it was indeed a purple phantom. Just as she was confused, Buttface's fawning voice came from behind. "Little fairy, I told you that these drifters are a little strange. They are indeed very strange. They actually led us into the passage leading to the ghost realm in a daze." Buttface? Yun Chujio turned around and saw an earthy yellow phantom shaking its head and wagging its tail to flatter her. Yun Chujio frowned. "I remember that I didn't let you out at night. How did you follow me?" Buttface had a sullen look on his face. He didn't want to follow her either. It would be much better if he could eat and drink in the spirit beast pouch. However, these damn drifters somehow managed to get his primordial spirit out of the spirit beast pouch and even brought it along with them. After hearing what Buttface had told her, Yun Chujio pondered for a moment. It seemed that these drifters were selective. Otherwise, they would have brought the rest of the dumb cuties along, and not just Buttface. Now was not the time to fight with these drifters. Since they had already gone to the ghost realm, she would go there and take a look. She wanted to see what the old witch who coveted her man looked like. After thinking it through, this fellow also had the mood to relax. He smiled and said to the little silver snake, "Prince Charming, you still don't know, right? I learned a little trick in the underground of the ghost city. I'll perform it for you to relieve your boredom." A certain someone was completely speechless. What kind of time was this? He actually still had the mood to play a little trick. His heart was really big. Yun Chujio did not care about a certain someone's reaction. She removed her arms and legs. Under a certain someone's horrified gaze, she transformed into countless purple light spots and then transformed into a certain someone's appearance. Chapter 4271 turned into a human again? A certain someone looked at Hei Shinjio who was showing off, and the shock in his heart could not be described with words. A human's primordial spirit was extremely fragile. If it turned into a light spot like the little rascal just now, would it mean that her soul and spirit were destroyed? Not only was she fine, but she could even transform back into any form? How is this possible? Yun Chujio saw the small silver snake's dumbfounded expression and felt that she was awesome. Those shameless drifters began to show off as well. Yun Chujio secretly gritted her teeth. What did her ability have to do with them? They actually followed her and showed off as well. How shameless! Yun Chujio had enough of the small silver snake's shock and blinked her eyes. Although there shouldn't be any enemies in the ghost realm, her physique was really terrible. For safety reasons, it was better to change into another appearance. Thus, this fellow transformed into an ordinary-looking young girl. However, the edges of the phantom were different from the silver of the little silver snake and the earthen yellow of Buttface. Instead, it was purple. Di Biming knew her intentions and agreed with her. Everything in the ghost realm was unknown. It was always right to be careful. After drifting for almost a day, a dazzling light spot finally appeared in front of them. Yun Chujio knew that they were about to reach the exit. This guy was afraid that the silver snake and Buttface would get separated from him, so he wrapped the silver snake around his arm and held Buttface in his arms. Fortunately, they were both in the primordial spirit state, so there was no difference in their actions. When Dog 2 saw the silver snake's cold gaze, it shivered. It knew that the jealous god was angry that the little fairy was hugging it. However, even if it had to risk offending a certain god, it had to hold on to the little fairy tightly and not let go. The ghost domain was such a terrifying place. If it did not follow the little fairy, it would be very miserable. Finally, the drifters brought 3 of them to the exit, and a blinding light was emitted. When Yun Chujio regained her sight, she realized that she had become a human again. She pinched herself and grimaced in pain. Had she really become a human? Then she looked at the clothes on her body. It was completely the same clothes that she had transformed into previously. It was simply too magical. Then she looked at the little silver snake and Buttface on the ground beside her. They were almost exactly the same as before. However, the figures of the drifters had disappeared. Could it be that they did not follow them out? At this moment, Buttface said eagerly, "Little fairy, do you find it very strange? This is easy to understand." The members of the ghost clan turned into ghosts when they came to our side, so we turned into humans when we came to their side. Although Buttface said it in a roundabout way, Yun Chujio also understood what he meant. It was nothing more than talking about the ghost realm, where the primordial spirit turned into a corporeal body. Due to a certain god's memory loss, he also felt that this experience was very fresh. However, he was not as obvious as Yun Chujio. Because she no longer had a storage ring on her body, Yun Chujio could not see her own appearance now. She asked, "Prince Charming, do I look like my original appearance after I'm easily transformed?" Di Biming said, "It's your transformed appearance. But why is there a red mole between your brows?" Yun Chujio could not see it without a mirror. She said casually, "I guess I didn't notice it when I transformed. I'll see if I can transform into something else." Yun Chujio tried the previous method. Her body actually turned into purple smoke and then transformed into Shui Wuji's appearance. However, there was still a red mole between her eyebrows that was as red as blood. Chapter 4272. Dog 2's elemental energy level. Yun Chujio once again reverted to her original appearance and frowned. She had a guess. Could this damnable red duck be those drifters? When these damnable drifters were in the Nameless Sword sect, they always wanted to make her frown. Now, she finally got what she wanted. However, now was not the time to bicker with them. The important matter was still more important. Yun Chujio tried to use her spiritual power and found that her spiritual power had been suppressed to the 8th level of the spirit enhancement realm. She was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Spirit enhancement? How far away was this level? Wasn't it so weak that she could not even summon Dehua? She tried to summon Dehua. Not to mention Dehua, she could not even summon a small purple needle. This guy felt a little uncertain. He could not use the big kitchen knife, Dehua, and those stupid cuties. His spiritual power had been suppressed to the level of the spirit enhancement realm, and he had 2 free food beside him. His future was bleak. A certain god did not know that he had been treated as free food by Hei Shinjio. He looked a little annoyed and tried to summon an ice dragon. Soon, an ice dragon appeared in front of the 2 of them. Hei Shinjio saw the ice dragon and widened her eyes. She asked, "Prince Charming, what level is your spiritual power suppressed to?" "I'm only at the 8th level of the spirit enhancement level now. The ghost realm is indeed very strong in suppressing spiritual power. But fortunately, at least I can still release the ice dragon. It's just that using it once will consume a lot of spiritual power," Di Baiming said in a deep voice. Yun Chujio was so angry that she was speechless. This was a blatant discrimination. Why could a gigolo be able to use a spiritual beast when they were both at the 8th level of the spirit enhancement realm? Why couldn't she? Alright, it seemed that when they were in the Qing continent, the gigolo's spiritual power was also suppressed. But he could also use a spiritual beast. It was really fucking unfair. This guy pouted and ignored Di Baiming. Instead, he carefully observed the surrounding environment. She had roughly scanned the area before and realized that this was a wilderness. It did not look any different from the towering sky continent. It was just that it was remote and desolate. Buttface, do you know where this is? Buttface narrowed his dog eyes and said, "The ghost domain has many such wilderness, so I can't tell where this is. However, the yuan qi here is very thin. It's most likely the base domain." Dog 2 saw that Yun Chujio and the small silver snake were somewhat confused. It explained, "The ghost race cultivates not spirit energy but yuan qi. Yuan qi is extremely important to them, so they divided the ghost domain into 3 regions: base domain, flat domain, and imperial domain. The base domain mainly lives in the commoners, while the flat domain lives in the commoners and a portion of the commoners who are servants. The imperial domain is the aristocratic families and the imperial family." Yun Chujio asked curiously, "It's easy to understand the aristocratic families and the imperial family. What's the difference between commoners and commoners? And according to what classification?" Dog 2 looked at Yun Chujio sympathetically. "According to the classification of elemental energy, little fairy, you don't have a single trace of elemental energy at the moment, so you are definitely a lowly commoner. If you want to get close to the imperial family and obtain the blazing red glaze tile, the most important thing is to increase your elemental energy. Otherwise, not to mention going to the imperial region, even surviving is a problem." Yun Chujio glanced at it. "From what I hear, you have elemental energy?" Dog 2 immediately said smugly, "No matter what, I was once trapped in this ghost domain. Yes, I roamed around for hundreds of years. In the end, I didn't even put the royal family in my eyes, let alone the commoners. It's just that my soul has only recovered a little, so, speak human language. So there's not much elemental energy left. It's only at the level of a rank 3 origin beast, which is equivalent to the 3rd level of the ghost clan," Buttface said guiltily. Chapter 4273. Go for hunting. Although Yun Chujio did not know the level of elemental energy, seeing the guilty look on Dog 2's face, she knew that it was most likely the lowest level of elemental energy. After asking, it was indeed the lowest level of elemental energy. Yun Chujio asked Dog 2 about the cultivation method of elemental energy. "Little fairy, you are a human and I am a beast. This cultivation method is different. If you want to learn how to cultivate elemental energy, you can only buy some cultivation books or find someone to teach you. However, it is very difficult to get started. I reckon that you and your majesty will need a long time to catch up to me." Seeing that a certain lord and Hei Shinjio did not have elemental energy at the moment and that he was the most powerful, Dog 2 could not help but feel a little smug. Yun Chujio frowned. Whether it was buying books or finding someone to teach, the most important thing was to have money first. No matter what currency was here, she did not have a single cent. Her gaze landed on Dog 2. Dog 2, when we reach the town, I will sell you for some money. After that, you can think of a way to run back. Buttface, you'll lose your baby if you act like this. Of course, Yun Chujio was trying to scare Buttface so that he wouldn't think that she had elemental energy and act all smug. A certain deity naturally knew what Yun Chujio was thinking and said cooperatively, "This idea is not bad. Although it doesn't have much use, it's not a bad idea to let people buy it to eat meat." Buttface was so scared that he was about to cry. His ears and tail immediately drooped as he said with a sobbing tone, "Little fairy, I was wrong. I shouldn't be so smug. I'll definitely tuck my tail between my legs and become a dog again in the future." Yun Chujio curled her lips. "It's fine if you don't sell it. Think of a way to earn money. If you can't think of one, I'll have to sell you." Buttface thought bitterly for a while, then he said, "I remember that there's a type of sword-toothed gopher in this wilderness. It's only a rank 1 origin beast, which is equivalent to the first layer of the ghost clan. Although it's not very valuable, it can be exchanged for some money. Why don't we capture some and sell them for money?" Yun Chujio had no other choice but to bitterly follow Buttface and start catching gopher. Buttface found a palm-sized hole with familiarity and said to Yun Chujio, "Little fairy, you stay here. I'll go to another hole and release my elemental energy. It will run out from this hole. You just need to catch it." After seeing Yun Chujio nod, Buttface ran to a hole in the distance and began to release his elemental energy into the hole. He also used his claws to dig a hole. After the sword-toothed gopher was frightened, it panicked and wanted to escape from the other hole. However, it was caught by Yun Chujio. The sword-toothed gopher was in a hurry to escape. Its sharp long teeth bit towards Yun Chujio's finger. Yun Chujio hurriedly raised her spirit energy shield. The spirit energy barrier was torn into pieces by the scimitar-toothed hamster's sharp teeth. Fortunately, at this time, Buttface jumped over and bit the scimitar-toothed hamster's throat. The scimitar-toothed hamster's neck tilted and it died. Yun Chujio frowned. It seemed that the first level of the original level was higher than the 8th level of the spirit enhancement. Her and the pretty boy's spirit energy was not enough. Moreover, they did not dare to use their spirit energy in front of outsiders. Therefore, the most important thing was to quickly cultivate their elemental energy. Following that, Yun Chujio and Buttface worked together to catch more than a dozen saber-toothed gophers. When they felt that it was about time, they identified the direction and walked towards the edge of the wilderness. Yun Chujio said with a faint smile, "Buttface, I see that you have a lot of mouse-catching skills. You caught quite a lot of these things before, right?" Chapter 4274. The dog gets the mouse. Buttface stammered and didn't say anything. When he thought of the miserable days when he got the mouse, he felt that this was the biggest dark history in his life. Back then, he accidentally bumped into the ghost realm, and his spiritual power was suppressed. In order to not starve to death, he could only use these sword-toothed gophers to satisfy his hunger. If it weren't for his strong body as a fierce beast, he would have died in this ghost realm long ago. Yun Chujio saw that dog too was drooping its head, so she did not continue to tease it. Instead, she said slyly to a certain venerable, "Prince Charming, do you have any thoughts about revisiting this old place? Soon, you will see Princess Miyen. Are you excited?" This venerable one does not remember anything, so it is not a revisiting of the old place. You don't have to test this venerable one anymore. This venerable one's taste is not that bad. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry can be compared to this venerable one, the venerable one said coldly. When Yun Chujio saw that a certain venerable one had even come out with a venerable one, she knew that he was angry. She hurriedly said, all right, I won't mention it. I care about you, right? If you were snatched away by someone, my heart would be broken into 108 pieces." Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the certain venerable one was clearly very pleased. He felt that the entire snake was very comfortable. Buttface secretly curled his lips. It was really mushy. Moreover, what he thought was simple. He did not have any essence energy at the moment. How could he still dream of entering the Imperial region? Wishful thinking. Of course, This fellow only dared to think about it in his heart, but he did not dare to say it out loud. Perhaps it was because the resources in the wilderness were too scarce. Yun Chujio did not encounter any other essence beasts as she walked all the way to the edge of the wilderness. All she could see was a bumpy dirt road. Both sides were filled with rubble and sand, making it very desolate. Little fairy, it seems like my judgment is correct. This is indeed the scum domain, Dog 2 said as it looked at the situation on both sides of the dirt road. It's good that it's the scum domain. After all, I don't have any origin energy now. If I were to go to the other two domains, I'm afraid I won't be able to save my life, Yun Chujio said indifferently. Dog 2 curled its lips. Little fairy, you just happen to be wrong. At the very least, the Ping domain and the Imperial domain still had law enforcement teams and order. However, there were no laws and restrictions in the scum domain. They adhered to the principle of the strong preying on the weak. It was very normal to rob and kill people on the streets. Therefore, you should seek your own fortune. Yun Chujio frowned. She was currently as weak as a piece of trash. If she really encountered a villain, forget about protecting the pretty boy and Dog 2, she might not even be able to protect herself. However, if she did not enter the town and had no way to cultivate elemental energy, she would really be in a dilemma. Buttface saw Yun Chujio's worry and said, Little fairy, the elemental energy of the commoners in the towns near the wilderness is usually very low, only around the 3rd level of the Yuanchu realm. With me protecting you, you don't have to be afraid. Little Gio, if they are only at the 3rd level of the Yuanchu realm, I can release the ice dragon at the critical moment to let us escape. It shouldn't be a problem for you to be careful. Even though Buttface and D. Biming said so, Yun Chujio still felt that it wasn't very safe. She blinked her eyes and transformed into a burly man. Then, she said in a muffled voice, it should be better this way. Let's go. When Buttface saw the red mole between the burly man's eyebrows, he couldn't help but stagger. Wasn't this scene too sour and refreshing? Yun Chujio also slowly recalled the red mole between her eyebrows. She simply smeared some saber-toothed rat blood on her forehead, so that others would think that it was accidentally stained with blood. Chapter 4275, Man-Town Buttface reminded, Little fairy, men and women's elemental energy auras are different. If the other party's elemental energy level is 5 levels higher than yours, they will be able to tell your actual gender. So, it's fine here. If we go somewhere else, it's better for you to pretend to be a woman. Yun Chujio was stunned. There was such a saying? What if I turn into a stone? What if I turn into grass? Buttface's face was stiff. I've never heard of such a situation. I guess no one would believe that a person can turn into a stone or grass. Yun Chujio's eyes immediately lit up. If she really encountered danger, she could completely transform into a tree or grass. She could definitely escape this disaster. The most urgent matter at hand was to buy the spirit beast pouch used by the Ghost Clan. This way, when she was escaping for her life, she could keep Buttface. As for the pretty boy, he was small anyway, so she could just randomly stuff him anywhere. After thinking up to this point, Yun Chujio's mood became a little better. She hummed a little tune as she led Buttface forward. After walking for some distance, they sparsely met a few people. Although those people were puzzled that Yun Chujio did not have any origin energy undulations on her body, seeing her valiant figure and bringing along a 3rd-level origin beast, no one dared to go up and provoke her, so they were fine. Yun Chujio saw that those people's bodies were filled with a bloody and brutal aura, and she was even more convinced of Buttface's words. These lowlifes probably really did not have any rules to speak of, completely relying on their fierce fighting. After walking for half a day, she saw a town in the distance. There were 2 crooked words written on it, Man-Town. However, rather than calling it a town, it was more appropriate to call it a village. It was really too small and too dilapidated. Even so, there were still 2 men with grass roots holding knives guarding the entrance. When they saw people with low elemental energy, they would blackmail them. If they couldn't hand over the things, they would be beaten up. Yun Chujio frowned and gave off a brutal and fierce aura as she swaggered towards the entrance. The two men exchanged a glance and wanted to go forward to stop her. However, they were frightened by Yun Chujio's aura. When they saw Dog 2's fierce little eyes, they did not dare to go forward. Yun Chujio walked in front of the two men and stopped. The two men jumped in fright. They thought that Yun Chujio was looking for trouble and immediately became vigilant. They did not expect Yun Chujio to only stop for a moment before continuing to walk forward. The two of them only heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Yun Chujio walk a distance away. They said, "That person's aura was really frightening, but there seemed to be no elemental energy undulations on his body. What's going on? I heard that if the elemental energy is too much higher than ours, we won't be able to see the other party's cultivation level. I reckon that person's elemental energy is much higher than ours. Didn't you see that the origin beast beside him is already at the 3rd level of the origin core realm? So that's how it is. Fortunately, we didn't offend him." When Yun Chujio heard the conversation between the two, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. She had to say that the new skill she learned underground in Ghost City was still very useful. Yun Chujio raised her eyes and looked over. This barbarian town was really dilapidated. There were practically no decent shops on either side of the road. Instead, there were many crooked thatched huts. There were also very few pedestrians on the road. Occasionally, she would see a few people who were also men. There were almost no women or children. Buttface sent a voice transmission, "Little fairy, did you see that? Women and children don't dare to go out on the street. If they are not careful, they will be robbed and sold for money. The lowly domain is very barbaric." Before Yun Chujio could reply, she heard someone behind her shout fiercely, "Stop! What are you trying to do by disguising as a man?" Chapter 4276 was too beautiful. Yun Chujio's heart jolted. She secretly cursed Buttface for being unreliable. Didn't they say that the people here were only around the 3rd level of Yuanchu? How could a person who ran out now be able to tell that she was a woman disguised as a man? She had no choice. She had already been seen through by others. It was useless to blame Buttface. She could only brace herself and turn around. She saw a middle-aged man standing opposite her. There were deep and shallow scars on the middle-aged man's face. It seemed that he often fought with others. That person was sizing up Yun Chujio with an inquisitive look. Yun Chujio thought to herself, since this person was able to see through her gender, her origin energy was at least at the 5th level of the origin realm and above. It definitely wouldn't work if she tried to force it. She still had to use her wits. Thus, this fellow put on a delicate and pitiful posture and said, "Because my head is too beautiful, Mother has instructed me from a young age to better disguise myself as a man when I come out. Otherwise, people will covet my beauty." That middle-aged man looked at Yun Chujio's ferocious face and revealed a bashful expression. He almost vomited. He was still worried that others would covet her just like that. Even a blind man wouldn't fancy her, all right. The middle-aged man adjusted it for a while before continuing to ask, "I don't see any elemental energy undulations on your body. Can't you cultivate? When I was 5 years old, my mother went missing, so no one taught me how to cultivate. I could only rely on catching these saber-toothed gophers to live." When the middle-aged man heard this, he thought to himself, no wonder her mother said that she was beautiful. It turned out that she was referring to before the age of 5. However, looking at her current appearance, she wasn't much better looking before the age of 5. However, he suddenly thought of something, and his eyes immediately lit up. He said, "I can teach you to cultivate, but the premise is that you have to join our wolf-killing hunting group and become a slave. Every month, we will pay you 300 low-grade yuan coins." Yun Chujio was confused. What the hell was the wolf-killing hunting group? And she was even allowed to become a slave? Dog 2 transmitted his voice. "Little fairy, the hunting group is an organization formed by low-class commoners with slightly higher elemental energy levels. They divide their work and hunt some high-level elemental beasts. This way, they can obtain more yuan coins, which is also beneficial for increasing elemental energy. They are low-class commoners themselves. Even if they say that they want you to become a slave, they won't establish any contract. You just have to agree. Once you learn the cultivation method, you can just run away. Yun Chujio felt that what Buttface said made sense. She was penniless now and had 2 free meals with her, so she naturally couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. However, in order to conform to the impression she had just created, this guy covered his chest with his hand. He asked shyly, "You don't fancy me, do you? Whether it's a slave or a daughter-in-law, I'm willing to do it." The small silver snake in Yun Chujio's sleeve pocket was so angry that it almost exploded. Even if it was acting, he didn't feel comfortable listening to it. He felt uncomfortable, and the middle-aged man was even more uncomfortable. If he didn't try his best to suppress it, he would have vomited long ago. "Well, you're thinking too much. Our wolf hunting group just wants to find a servant to cook for us. Since you're willing, come with me." Yun Chujio said hesitantly, "Can you lend me some money first and deduct it from my salary? I want to buy a Essence Beast bag." That person looked at Buttface, who was beside Yun Chujio, impatiently. He frowned and said, "Although a 3rd-grade Essence Beast is not bad here, your Essence Beast is obviously a hybrid, a breed, and a dog. It's not valuable. Why not just kill it and eat its meat? Why waste money to buy a Essence Beast bag?" "Mixed breed dog?" Buttface nearly fainted from anger. He was an ancient fierce beast, but he was actually treated as a mixed breed dog? Damn it, I just can't beat him. Otherwise, I'll kill him. Chapter 4277. Jinmei Hei Shinjio was secretly happy. However, she revealed a sad expression on her face. "If it hadn't accompanied me, I would have starved to death long ago. Therefore, in my heart, it is the same as my family. I have no reason to abandon it." When that person heard that, his contempt towards Yun Chujio weakened a little. The people of their hunting group valued loyalty the most. If there was no loyalty, how would they dare to hand over their backs to the other party in battle? Although this ugly girl was a little ugly, at least she had a good heart. She was much better than some fickle girls. He thought for a moment and took out a gray bag and a ring from the storage ring in his hand and handed them to Yun Chujio. "Although this Origin Beast bag and storage ring are a little old and their grade is very low, they are enough for you to use. I'll give you a discount. A total of 1,000 low-grade yuan coins. When the time comes, I'll deduct it from your wages." Yun Chujio immediately thanked him with a smile. However, her current smile was not at all cute, and it was a little silly. After Yun Chujio took the items, she realized that she did not have any Origin energy, so she could not open the Origin Beast pouch and storage ring at all. The middle-aged man also thought of this and said, "Let's hurry on our way. When we rest at night, I'll teach you the method of absorbing qi into your body." "Alright, my name is Sha Wuhan. How should I address you, miss?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said, "So it's Brother Sha. My name is Jinmei." Sha Wuhan. Her appearance and name were worlds apart. It would be more appropriate if her surname was Jia. Sha Wuhan found that Jinmei was not only ugly, but also a little narcissistic. She was pretty good in other aspects. He came to Mantown this time to buy some sword pool gophers to trap higher-grade Origin beasts, so he noticed Yun Chujio, who was holding a string of sword pool gophers in her hand. He was also surprised to find that she was pretending to be a man. That was why he stopped her. The reason why he had chosen Yun Chujio was very simple. The wolf hunting group was just a small hunting group with limited manpower. There was no way to assign a person to cook and help, and it was even more impossible to hire a servant at a high price. He felt that Yun Chujio was very suitable. Firstly, she did not have any family and would not have any worries. Secondly, she did not have any spiritual power. He only needed to use the excuse of teaching her spiritual power to reduce most of his wages. Thirdly, although she was a woman, she was so ugly, staying in the camp wouldn't cause any trouble. It was perfect. Sha Wuhan recalled the purpose and said to Yun Chujio, "Miss Zhen, sell the sword pool hamsters you have to me. One is 2 low-grade yuan coins and you have 15. That's a total of 30 low-grade yuan coins." As Sha Wuhan said this, he stuffed 30 low-grade yuan coins into Yun Chujio's hand and put the 15 sword-toothed hamsters into his storage ring. Yun Chujio didn't know the market value of the gophers. Besides, she couldn't say anything even if Sha Wuhan didn't give her any yuan coins. It seemed that Sha Wuhan wasn't bad. Yun Chujio followed Sha Wuhan to a dilapidated shop and bought hundreds of gophers before leaving Mantown. While they were on their way, Sha Wuhan stared at Yun Chujio's beard and asked, "Miss Zhen, how did you get your beard? It looks quite similar to the real one." "Well, the fur on the rat's tail was stuck on it," He Xinjiu said vaguely. Sha Wuhan nodded and endured it before saying, "Miss Zhen, you really don't need to disguise yourself as a man. Your appearance is really safe." Yun Chujio. Chapter 4278. The two chatted as they walked. Soon, the sky turned dark, and they found a place to sleep. Sha Wuhan took out 2 black steamed buns from his storage ring and handed them to Yun Chujio. "Miss Zhen, take a bite. When we get to the camp, we'll have a big bowl of wine and a big piece of meat." Yun Chujio was speechless. It was obvious that Sha Wuhan didn't think of her as a lady. She was also hungry. Although the steamed bun didn't look good, she ate one randomly. The reason why there was still one left was very simple. Buttface and the pretty boy hadn't eaten yet. She took the opportunity when Sha Wuhan wasn't paying attention and stuffed half of the steamed bun into her sleeve pocket. The remaining half was stuffed into Buttface's mouth. Sha Wuhan turned around and saw the steamed bun in Buttface's mouth. He said disapprovingly, "Miss Zhen, you spoil your yuan pet too much. You just let it find its own food, and you even fed it steamed buns." Yun Chujio smiled and didn't say anything. Buttface's dog blinked its eyes. It hated Sha Wuhan in its heart. Damn it, he called it a bastard, a dog, and refused to give it steamed buns. "Just you wait." Sha Wuhan took out 2 more mantu and handed them to Yun Chujio, saying, "Here, eat. With your physique, you probably haven't eaten your fill yet, right?" Yun Chujio took the mantu and cursed in her heart. So stingy. Can't she give a few more at once? She used to be a little rich woman, but now she was reduced to a situation where she couldn't even afford to eat mantu. How tragic! Yun Chujio ate 1 mantu, and the remaining one was fed to Little Snake and Buttface. Sha Wuhan did not say anything this time. After dinner, he said, "Miss Zhen," Yun Chujio interrupted him, "Brother Sha, don't be so distant. Just call me beautiful from now on." The corner of Sha Wuhan's eyes twitched. He had to admit that this name was too out of place. However, he still said against his heart, "Beautiful girl, I'll teach you to draw qi into your body now. This is the first step of cultivating vitality." Sha Wuhan rambled on and on. Yun Chujio felt that it was similar to drawing a spirit into her body, so she immediately sat cross-legged and tried to absorb yuan qi. However, this fellow tried many times but failed to draw qi into her body. Sha Wuhan comforted her, "Pretty girl, it's always like this at the beginning. You'll succeed in a few days." At this time, the sky was already dark. Yun Chujio could only rest temporarily. She did not know why, but she had a bad premonition that her yuan qi cultivation would not go very smoothly. At midnight, the small silver snake in Yun Chujio's sleeve pocket suddenly began to wriggle uneasily. Yun Chujio was startled and could only stand up. Sha Wuhan blurted out in a daze. Yun Chujio used the excuse of the latrine to enter the wild grass at the side. Yun Chujio had just entered the wild grass when the small silver snake jumped out from the sleeve pocket. Then a lively and fragrant fruit man appeared in front of He Xinjiu. He Xinjiu's eyes were wide open. She could not believe what she had just seen. The pretty boy had turned into a human? A certain someone's current mood could not be described with words. If there was a crack in the ground, he would definitely crawl into it without any hesitation. Previously, Sha Wuhan had taught Yun Chujio the method of absorbing qi into her body. He had also practiced it in his sleeve pocket. He did not expect to succeed in one try. However, his entire person had entered a mysterious state. Then he sprinted away. Seeing that He Xinjiu was staring at him in a daze, a certain venerable had no choice but to cover a certain spot with his hand and said in a low voice, "Close your eyes." He Xinjiu followed his advice and covered her eyes with her hand. However, she was still looking at him through the gaps of her fingers. Chapter 4279 was short. A certain someone was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He did not understand why the little rascal who had transformed into a person was wearing clothes, but he was now naked. He directly took out the storage ring that Sha Wuhan gave her from Yun Chujia's sleeve pocket. After using his origin energy to open it, he discovered that there was indeed a tattered piece of clothing inside. He did not care much and directly put it on his body. Hei Shinjio had to admit that if a person was good-looking, even if he wore a sack, he would still look good. That tattered piece of clothing on Di Baiming's body forcefully gave off a luxurious feeling. Only then did Yun Chujio ask, "Prince Charming, why did you suddenly become a human?" "I'm already at the first layer of the origin core realm now. It's probably because of my elemental energy breakthrough, so, before a certain venerated being could finish his words, he had already disappeared. A small silver snake had appeared on the ground. Yun Chujio was stunned for a moment before saying faintly, "Male god, you really didn't have much time." A certain venerated being was so angry that his entire snake was distorted. Good, very good, he would remember it. Hei Shinjio shrunk her neck when she saw the small silver snake's ice-cold gaze. She explained dryly, "I'm talking about the short time you took to transform. I'm not talking about the short time you took to transform. Don't worry about it." The silver snake was so angry that it was about to turn into a dried snake. "You're trying to cover up, all right?" Hei Shinjio quickly changed the topic and sighed, "Prince Charming, you're the best. I didn't even manage to draw chi into my body, but you're already at the first level of Yuan Chu. How can there be such a huge difference between humans?" Di Baiming knew that she was changing the topic and was in a rage, so he ignored her. Hei Shinjio laughed when she saw that a certain god did not say anything. "Prince Charming, put this clothes into your storage ring. Otherwise, Sha Wuhan will not be able to explain himself." Di Baiming snorted, but he still put the broken clothes into his storage ring. Yun Chujio told Di Baiming to put the spirit beast bag and the 30 yuan into his storage ring. Then, she put the silver snake into her sleeve bag and went back to the camp. The day was filled with anxiety and ups and downs. Hei Shinjio was tired and sleepy. She fell asleep very quickly. A few dark lights flashed in the small silver snake's vertical pupils. As her yuan power increased, some images flashed in her mind. It seemed that she had come to the right ghost region. When the sky was beginning to brighten, Yun Chujio woke up. Although she liked to sleep late, she had to know when. Now that there were so many dangers, how could she still dare to sleep late? When Sha Wuhan woke up, he saw that Yun Chujio was already sitting cross-legged in meditation, trying to draw chi into her body. He couldn't help but be very satisfied. The members of the wolf hunting group were all hard-working people. He didn't want to recruit a lazy person, even a servant couldn't do it. After the two of them had breakfast, they continued on their journey. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. This Sha Wuhan was either really poor or stingy. He didn't even have a origin beast to carry him, let alone a flying spirit tool. That night, when she was resting, Yun Chujio tried to draw chi into her body again, but she still didn't succeed. Sha Wuhan didn't pay much attention to it. Many people needed a few days or even half a month to draw chi into their bodies, so it was normal for Zhen Meili to fail. Although Hei Shinjio wasn't willing to give up, she felt sleepy and could only close her eyes to sleep. However, in the middle of the night, the small silver snake started to wriggle again. Yun Chujio had no choice but to run to a hidden place with the excuse that she had a stomachache. Then she admired a certain fruit sprinting again. This time, the certain snake did not waste any time with her. It took out some clothes from its storage ring and put them on. Hei Shinjio said gloomily, "I have to take them off later anyway. What's the point of putting them on?" Chapter 4280 was at least safe. A certain god did not want to say anything right now, because no matter what he said, it was impossible to glue his face together. Hei Shinjio rolled her eyes and said slyly, "Prince Charming, don't tell me that you are going to run back and forth every night in the future? Just for this luck with women, I feel that this trip to the ghost realm is really worth it." Di Baiming squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth, "Shut up." Hei Shinjio snickered before her smile froze. Prince Charming, have you reached the second level of Yuanchu? One level every day? That's too depressing. Di Baiming glanced at her. It's not the second level of Yuanchu. That's what I'm talking about. How can one level up every day? If that's the case, I won't let anyone live. I'm at the third level of Yuanchu. Hei Shinjio, damn it, she didn't want to talk anymore. She couldn't even draw the chi into her body, and the pretty boy was already at the third level of Yuanchu. How could she let anyone live? Seeing Yun Chujia's charming eyes, a certain being wanted to make love to her. However, when he saw her square-headed face and the beard on her chin, all the charm was gone. However, he thought that it was better this way. At least it was safe. Although this time it was longer than yesterday, the certain being quickly turned into a small silver snake. Hei Shinjio curled her lips. I told you that there was no point in wearing it, right? Aren't you still taking it off now? Besides, where have I not seen your body? Where have I not touched it? It's unnecessary. A layer of pink appeared on the small silver snake's body. A certain lord scolded angrily, "Shut up! Hurry up and go back to sleep." Hei Shinjio rolled her eyes. She still had the nerve to say that. If you hadn't come out in the middle of the night, would she have come out to gloat? However, it was easy to deal with on the road. If she went to the wolf-killing hunting group, what would happen if the pretty boy transformed in the middle of the night? She had to think of a way. Fortunately, when the pretty boy transformed, there was no dazzling white light like before. Otherwise, there would be no way to hide it. The next day, when the two of them passed by the town, Sha Wuhan said, "Pretty girl, go and buy a set of women's clothes. $30 for a set of shabby women's clothes should be enough. Also, get rid of your beard. Otherwise, it will look really awkward. Moreover, we can reach the camp today, so I can introduce you to everyone." Yun Chujia's heart moved. For the sake of convenience in the future, it was indeed more suitable to change into women's clothes. Therefore, she chose a small shop and picked a set of shabby women's clothes. She put it on the outside of men's clothes. After the beard disappeared, she changed into a woman's hairstyle and walked out of the shop. Sha Wuhan looked at Hei Shinjio, who was wearing women's clothing. The corners of his eyes twitched. Although she looked better than before, she was really ugly. The most important thing was her strong figure. With that square head and big face, she didn't look like a woman no matter how he looked at her. The two of them left the town and walked for half a day. In the evening, they reached the edge of a forest. From afar, they could see several simple houses made of wood. Those wooden houses were basically gathered together. Could it be that there were many hunting groups here? Sha Wuhan brought Yun Chujio to a gathering place of wooden houses. There were 7 or 8 men eating around a fire. When those people saw Sha Wuhan and Yun Chujio, their mouths were wide open in surprise. Their target of surprise was obviously the beautiful Yun Chujio. "Boss, who's behind you?" A short and fat man asked curiously. The rest of the people also looked at Sha Wuhan curiously. Chapter 4281, You Are My Ancestor? Sha Wuhan cleared his throat, only then did he say, "This is a servant that I recruited. In the future, when we go hunting, we can leave her behind to guard the camp. Moreover, she can also help us cook and wash up. This can also reduce our burden." Only then did everyone come to a sudden realization. No wonder their boss recruited an ugly woman without elemental energy. So she was working for them. That short fatty asked again, "Boss, then what's her name? How should we address her?" Sha Wuhan's expression froze. He paused for a moment before saying, "Her name is Zhen Meili. From now on, you guys can call her pretty sister." Crack, crack, crack. The bowls in the hands of several people fell to the ground. Fortunately, they were all wooden bowls and weren't afraid of falling. They couldn't believe their ears. What the hell? Zhen Meili? How could she call herself Zhen Meili with such an honorable appearance? It would be better if she called herself Zhen Unattractive. Yun Chujio covered her mouth with her hand and smiled shyly. Do you think I'm too good-looking? Is that why you're all stunned?" Those people almost spat out the food they had just eaten. Damn, it was too ugly. "Pretty girl, don't take it to heart. They might have eaten too much. Come, let's eat too. Sha Wuhan was still relatively calm. After all, he was used to looking at her, so he wasn't that ugly. Those people all winked at each other, thinking that their boss most likely had a problem with his brain. Even if they found a servant, they shouldn't have found such a trash and ugly monster. They could put their ugly looks aside for now. What could they do with this little bit of elemental energy? If other hunting groups took advantage of their absence to cause trouble, she probably wouldn't even be able to save her own life, right? Boss, although the words aren't pleasant to hear, fifth brother, I have to say something. This Jin Meili doesn't have any elemental energy at all. Can she do it? It's fine if we usually hunt, but sometimes we have to walk for 2 or 3 days. She'll definitely follow us. But she doesn't have any spiritual energy. Won't she be a burden to us? A tall and thin man said with a look of disdain. The others also nodded. The short and fat man echoed, Boss, let's not talk about other things. It's not that you don't know that the people living here are all people who don't care about their lives. If our sworn enemy comes here while we're not here, I'm afraid that she won't be able to save her life. Sha Wuhan glanced at Yun Chujio. Seeing that she didn't show any signs of panic, he thought to himself that Jin Meili was quite calm. He waved his hand and said, It's not that pretty girl is a useless person who can't cultivate. It's just that she's an orphan and has no one to teach her. Therefore, she doesn't know how to cultivate, so she should be able to cultivate very soon. Besides, she has a strong body and her movement technique is quite flexible. She hasn't been left behind by me while traveling with me these days. Even if we hunt together, she shouldn't be a burden to us. Besides, I won't hide it from you. I only give the beautiful girl 300 yuan a month. I can't find a more suitable slave for this salary. When Yun Chujio heard that she was strong, the corner of her eyes twitched. She had never thought that she would be associated with this word. She remembered that when she was traveling, Sha Wuhan's speed was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. It turned out that he was testing her body and stamina. It seemed that Sha Wuhan was a rough but careful person. When those people heard that Yun Chujio's salary was only 300 yuan, they were speechless because the price was indeed too low. Moreover, she had joined voluntarily. If she really lost her life, it wouldn't be their fault. However, everyone still looked at Yun Chujio with disdain. After all, they didn't see any redeeming qualities in this Jin Meili. It was really a waste of such a good name. Hey, Shinjio cursed in her heart. You bunch of snobs. Sooner or later, they'll blind you all. Just as she was cursing in her heart, the little silver snake in her sleeve writhed uneasily. Yun Chujio, you're not my fiancé, you're my ancestor. Chapter 4282 would be a huge loss. Yun Chujio was very anxious. There were so many people here. Not to mention that it was not shameful for a pretty boy to run around. The main thing was that if people saw it, they would probably be killed. Go to the forest? Who knew if there was anyone in the forest, so she could not go. Her gaze fell on a few small wooden houses, and then she said, Brother Sha, my stomach is a little painful. Can I go inside to rest for a while? Sha Wuhan saw that Yun Chujio's forehead was covered in cold sweat and believed her. He pointed at a wooden house and said, Go inside and rest for a while. I will build a wooden house for you with my brothers. It will be convenient for you to live in the future. Yun Chujio thanked Sha Wuhan and entered Sha Wuhan's wooden house with her hand on her stomach. She closed the door and let Dog 2 guard the door. Only then did she let out the small silver snake. Almost at the instant she was released, a certain venerable once again put on a show. Yun Chujio was not in the mood to admire the handsome man. She lowered her voice and said, Are you stupid? Didn't it only change at midnight every day? Why did it change at this time today? A certain venerable felt like he was bickering in his heart. He was not willing either. He explained in a low voice, I originally controlled the time of the breakthrough, but perhaps because the yuan qi here is a little denser than other places, the yuan qi in my dantian could not be suppressed and I accidentally made a breakthrough. Yun Chujio curled her lips. See? Cultivating too fast won't bring you any benefits. Consolidate your foundation properly and don't be in a hurry to achieve success. Di Baiming could not help but laugh when he heard the sourness in Yun Chujia's words. He comforted her, "Don't be anxious. Since your primordial spirit can change at will, your talent in cultivating Yuan Qi must be excellent. You will soon surpass mine." Yun Chujio snorted coldly, "I'm not anxious. I'm just afraid that someone will see your pot during your breakthrough. That is my property. If someone sees it, I will suffer a huge loss." Di Baiming knew that she was stubborn and did not point it out. Just as he was about to give a few more instructions, he turned into a small silver snake again. At that moment, Butt-Face's anxious cry came from outside the door. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed with a fierce look. She put the small silver snake into her sleeve pocket and rushed out. When Yun Chujio arrived outside, she saw that the tall and thin man, fifth and sixth, was encircling Butt-Face with ill intentions. Sha Wuhan and a few others were not around. They were probably going to chop wood. Fifth saw Yun Chujio come out and said with a smile, "Beautiful girl, you came out just in time. Your elemental pet is just a hybrid, a breed, a dog. It's a waste of food to keep it. Why don't you give it to everyone to satisfy their hunger?" Although the wolf-killing hunting group relied on hunting for a living, the high-level origin beasts they hunted were reluctant to eat and had to be sold. The two saw that although Dog 2 was small, its fur was shiny, and its meat looked very fresh and tender. Therefore, they had evil thoughts. Dog 2 was about to explode with anger. Thinking about it, Dog 2 didn't say that it could do whatever it wanted, but now it was forced by these scumbags to ask the little fairy for help. It was really embarrassing. No, it was embarrassing. Yun Chujio protected Dog 2 behind her and said coldly, "Brothers, this origin beast is my savior. Please don't think about it." Lao Wu didn't expect Yun Chujio to refuse so decisively. His face couldn't help but turn ugly. This ugly monster was just a servant, but he actually used such a tone to talk to him. He really didn't know what was good for him. Lao Wu was about to turn hostile when Sha Wuhan and the others returned. He could only glare at Yun Chujio before turning around to help. Chapter 4283 had actually followed them. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. This Lao Wu seemed to be very narrow-minded. He must have already hated her. She had to be more careful in the future. Sha Wuhan did not know what had happened before. He thought that the three of them were chatting. He asked with concern, "Pretty girl, are you better?" Yun Chujio nodded and said shyly, "Thank you, big brothers, for helping me build the house. I will definitely work hard in the future." Sha Wuhan and the others turned their heads in unison. There was nothing they could do. Yun Chujio's honorable and shy expression was enough for 10 people to look at for half a month. Sha Wuhan and the others built the wooden house, but Yun Chujio didn't stay idle. She cleaned the camp and washed their bowls and chopsticks. Sha Wuhan and the others saw it and thought that although Jin Meili was ugly, she looked hardworking and not bad. While Yun Chujio was working, she looked at the people around her. From the way they were working, she could tell who was hardworking and who was cunning. That Lao Wu seemed to be busy, but in fact he was just making a lot of noise and didn't do much work. It was the same for Lao Wu, who was chasing after Butt-Face with him. Sha Wuhan and the other 5 people looked very honest and quickly built the wooden house. Sha Wuhan even took out some hay and spread it inside the wooden house. He said, "Pretty girl, our conditions here are limited. Just make do with it for now. When we become rich, the conditions will improve." Yun Chujio said a few polite words, and then used the excuse of cultivating to return to the wooden house. This time, she didn't dare to leave Butt-Face outside. That 5th and 6th brother had ulterior motives, so it was better to be careful. Yun Chujio sat on the hay and let out a long breath. No matter what, she finally had a place to stay for the time being. Butt-Face said fiercely, "Little fairy, those 2 scumbags are really detestable. When impowerful, it'll definitely bite them to death." Yun Chujio glanced at it. "Since you're so ambitious, cultivate well." Butt-Face narrowed his dog eyes. Did the little fairy think that he was bragging? Although he was very weak now, it would not be long before he became stronger. Seeing that Butt-Face was obediently cultivating at the side, Yun Chujio also sat cross-legged and began to try to draw qi into her body. She tried a few times but failed. This fellow was very frustrated. Why couldn't she do it? Previously, in the Qingxian continent, because of the strange grass and the heavenly thunder spirit root, she could not cultivate for a long time. Now, the origin energy that she cultivated here was not spirit energy. Moreover, the strange grass did not follow her. Why couldn't she cultivate? This fellow suddenly thought of a possibility, so she looked inside her dantian and saw the situation inside. This fellow almost died from anger. The Guai Chao shook its leaves at her in a smug manner, and the black bead beside it also trembled, and that damned great void mirror also trembled. Damn it, wasn't she in the primordial spirit state now? Why did these three damn things follow her? Shouldn't they be in her danton and not come out? Why did they follow her primordial spirit to the ghost realm? Hei Xinjiu felt as though she was bickering with a dog. What was going on? Yun Chujiu was not thinking about the usefulness of these three things, but whether these three foodies would devour her yuan qi. If that was the case, how long would it take for her to cultivate? Her goal in coming to the ghost realm was to find the blazing red glaze tile, but she did not want to stay here for a long time. However, if she could not cultivate for a long time, not to mention obtaining the blazing red glaze tile, she would not even be able to save her life. Chapter 4284 did not know what worry was when Di Biming heard Yun Chujiu cursing softly. He comforted her, things might not be as bad as you think. Although the three of them might have some negative effects, but with them, you also have more life-saving means. Yun Chujiu pouted and said, life-saving means? Although they are useful in Towering Sky Continent, they might be useless here. Tell me yourself, what is the use of you? After Yun Chujiu asked, she saw that the three animals in her dantian had no reaction at all, and the leaves of the Guai Chao had drooped down. Damn it, she knew it. Her life was so miserable. Seeing Hei Xinjia's sad face, a certain someone was trying to comfort her. However, he heard Yun Chujiu mumble, forget it. Since we are here, it's useless to be sad. Besides, it's worth it to see your body, my Prince Charming. A certain someone immediately decided to feed all the so-called sympathy and pity to the dogs. This little rascal never knew what it meant to be sad. The next morning, the members of the wolf-killing hunting group smelled the fragrance of the rice porridge the moment they woke up. Moreover, there was hot water for them to wash up. They immediately felt that Zhen Meili was not bad. During breakfast, Old Five said unhappily, Zhen Meili, your porridge is too thin. Hunting is a physical labor. Are you planning to starve us to death? Lao Lu also agreed, that's right. Boss gave you so much brown rice, but you only put so little. Are you planning to hide the brown rice? Yun Chujiu didn't say anything. She just took a pot of black steamed buns from the steamer in the pot and put them on the table. Lao Wu and Lao Lu were embarrassed. They didn't notice that Yun Chujiu had heated the steamed buns. If they ate it with the steamed buns, the porridge wouldn't be too thick. In order to get back at her, Lao Lu snorted. It's clear and watery. There's not even a side dish. It's horrible. Yun Chujiu still didn't say anything. Instead, she brought over 2 plates of cold wild vegetables. When Lao Lu saw the wild vegetables on the plate, he immediately threw his chopsticks down. Ugly freak, did you do it on purpose? Don't you know that the bitter leaf vegetables taste very bitter? Do you think we're fools? Yun Chujiu still didn't say anything. She sat down with a bowl of porridge and picked up a piece of wild vegetables to eat. In the past, this foodie would never have scoffed at such a light meal, but after eating steamed buns for a few days, she felt that such a meal was already very good. Sha Wuhan frowned and said, Lao Lu, this beautiful girl is new here. It's normal that she doesn't know the bitter leaf vegetables. With hot porridge and steamed buns, it's much better than before. Don't be picky. Sixth brother was a little embarrassed by Sha Wuhan's words. He glared at Yun Chujiu before continuing to eat. Sha Wuhan was afraid that Yun Chujiu would be upset. Although he knew that the bitter leaf vegetables were terrible to eat, he still picked up a chopstick to comfort her. Who would have thought that the mixed bitter leaf vegetables not only were not bitter, but also had a strange fragrance? It was unexpectedly delicious. Sha Wuhan quickly picked up another chopstick and put it in his mouth to taste it carefully. That short fatty, who was also the second brother of the hunting group, saw Sha Wuhan pick up 2 chopsticks in a row, so he curiously picked up a piece of wild vegetables as well. Then he shouted, "Oh my God, is this really bitter leaf vegetables? It's not bitter at all, and it's quite delicious." The others were skeptical, but after tasting it, they immediately snatched it up. Only 5th and 6th did not eat to save face. The 2 of them looked at Yun Chujio with even more unkind eyes, thinking that Yun Chujio did this on purpose, just to make them lose face. Chapter 4285 Fierce Tiger Hunting Group. Yun Chujio glanced at old 5 and old SAXS expressions and sneered in her heart. "You want to fight with me? You're courting death." These wild vegetables were picked by her from the edge of the forest. Although she didn't recognize them, she did recognize the guai chow. Before dawn, Yun Chujio was woken up by the guai chow. The guai chow was most likely hungry because it was new and didn't have any medicinal pills. It wanted to eat some medicinal herbs to make do, so it clamored to eat the grass. Hei Xinjiu had no choice but to wander around the edge of the forest. In the end, the guai chow chose this bitter leaf vegetable. Hei Xinjiu spat it out after eating it. It was too damn bitter. She refused to eat it no matter what. The guai chow had no choice but to remind Yun Chujio to blanch it with hot water before eating it. Yun Chujio tried it and found that the bitter leaf vegetable tasted pretty good after blanching the water. Therefore, she made 2 plates of cold food. While everyone was eating, a few sneers suddenly came. "TSKSK, Boss Sha, your wolf-killing hunting group is getting worse by the day, and now you're actually eating bitter leaf vegetables. Why don't you kneel down and kowtow to beg us? Our boss might agree to let you join our fierce tiger hunting group." Yun Chujio turned around curiously and saw more than 20 men standing not far away. Their faces were full of ridicule. The person in the lead had a scar on his face and his gaze was very vicious. A pretty woman stood beside him. Sha Yuan's face immediately darkened. The other members of the wolf-killing hunting group were also angry. It was obvious that this fierce tiger hunting group was not on good terms with them. The leader of the fierce tiger hunting group, Tu Lai, hugged the woman beside him and kissed her on the face. He said with a fake smile, "Sha Wuhan, what's wrong? Nguyen Lu abandoned you and you found such an ugly monster to be your lover? TSK, what a trash who can't cultivate. You're really not picky." Sha Yuan's eyes turned red. He clenched his fists and said sternly, "Zhen Meili is my slave. Don't talk nonsense. Our wolf hunting squad and your fierce tiger hunting squad don't interfere with each other. Leave our camp quickly." "Zhen Meili? Ha, I'm dying of laughter. This ugly monster is called Zhen Meili? Ugly people make trouble. It's more like Miss Nguyen Liu's name. Where did she get the courage to call her Zhen Meili?" Sha Wuhan, that coward, could only find such an ugly monster. After all, the wolf hunting squad is a bunch of trash. Sha Wuhan and the wolf hunting squad's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. The short fatty and the others wanted to go up and fight for their lives, but Sha Wuhan stopped them. There was a huge difference in strength between them and the fierce tiger hunting squad. If they acted rashly, they would only fall into their trap. Tu Lai saw that Sha Wuhan had no intention of making a move. He curled his lips and said, "Boss Sha, fine. You really can endure it. There's only half a month left before you have to pay the bounty. If you guys delay this time, TSK, you'll only be chased out of the thorn forest." Sha Wuhan said coldly, "You don't have to worry. We naturally have a way." Tu Lai curled his lips and said, "You stubborn duck. Don't blame me for not being loyal. As long as you hand over that thing, it'll help you pay the bounty. What do you think?" Sha Wuhan said coldly, "I don't understand what you're saying." Tu Lai was a little angry from embarrassment. He said arrogantly, "All right, I want to see how long you can hold on. If any of you want to join me, Tu Lai, I'll welcome you at any time. It's better to follow me and enjoy a good meal than to eat wild vegetables with Sha Wuhan." Chapter 4286 was still as blind as ever. The short fatty and the others scoffed at Tu Lai's words. However, Old 5 and Old Six's eyes flickered a few times. Others did not notice, but Hei Shinjio did. Hei Shinjio sneered in her heart. Was he planning to climb up the ladder? The fierce tiger hunting group left with wild laughter. The camp was dead silent. The short fatty gritted his teeth and said, "Boss, why did you stop me just now? That bastard Tu-Lai needs to be taught a lesson. Not only did he steal your woman, he even humiliated us." Second brother, stop talking. The gentle-looking third brother interrupted the short fatty's words. Big brother is doing this for our own good. There are only 8 of us, and the fierce tiger hunting squad has over 20 people. If we really fight, we will be the ones at a disadvantage. The short fatty wanted to say more, but Old 5 suddenly asked, "Boss, there is still half a month before we have to pay the human head fee. What do you plan to do?" Sha Wuhan revealed a difficult expression. He sighed and said, "Each of us has 5,000 human head fee, so the 8 of us will get 40,000 low-grade yuan coins. I only have 20,000 low-grade yuan coins here. If we work hard, we will still be able to gather enough. It's just that after we pay the human head fee, our days will be tight again." Old 6 snappily said, "Aren't our days always tight? Other hunting groups drink wine and eat meat, but what about us? Every meal is like a steamed bun. Boss, what exactly does that Tu-Lai want? Just give it to him. Otherwise, if he keeps teaming up with other hunting groups to ostracize us, we can only hunt 3rd and 4th rank origin beasts that are not worth much." Sha Yuan's expression immediately sank. He stared at 6th brother and said, "If you feel that following me isn't satisfactory, you can go and seek refuge with the other hunting groups. I won't stop you." 5th brother glared at 6th brother and said, "Big brother, don't be angry. 6th brother didn't mean that. He's also anxious because of the head fee." The short fatty also tried to mediate the situation. "Right, big brother, don't take it to heart. 20,000 low-grade yuan isn't a particularly large amount. If we're lucky, we can hunt a few 5th and 6th rank origin beasts." 6th brother also said a few words, saying that he didn't mean anything by it. Sha Yuan's expression was cold. He said indifferently, "It's getting late. Let's go hunt first." The others saw this and didn't say anything else. They could only set off to hunt. Before leaving, Sha Wuhan told Yun Chujio not to leave the camp and to pay attention to safety. Yun Chujio nodded and agreed. She watched Sha Wuhan and the others enter the thorny forest. This guy sat on the chair and stuffed hot water-boiled bitter leaf vegetables into his mouth one after another. He couldn't help it. He wouldn't stop until he fed the damn guai chow. Moreover, Hei Shinjio still had a trace of luck. Perhaps after she fed the guai chow to its full, she would be able to channel her qi into her body. The slaves from the other camps gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and pointed at Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio pretended not to see or hear anything and continued to stuff her mouth. When she had almost finished eating, Yun Chujio went to the edge of the forest to continue picking the bitter leaf vegetables. Unexpectedly, Nguyen Lu twisted her waist and walked up to her. "Ugly freak, you are really good at making Sha Wuhan fall for you." Yun Chujio ignored her and continued picking the bitter leaf vegetables. Nguyen Lu said impatiently, "Ugly freak, didn't you hear me talking to you? Are you deaf?" Yun Chujio saw that she wouldn't stop, so she could only stand up and say coldly, "Then how should I answer you? Should I admit that I'm good at it, or should I admit that Sha Wuhan is still so blind?" Yun Chujio emphasized on, "still as blind as before." Nguyen Lu was stunned at first, then she understood that Yun Chujio was mocking her. She said angrily, "Ugly freak, you're courting death." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.